time for another round of Brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Well, we're back. Thanks for tuning back in. Reilly and I were just sitting here kind of discussing what we want to talk about. And today, of all days, it just so happens that it is the first day of fall, officially. Well, not officially going by the calendar, but in the world of brand, it is officially fall. And why is that, Reilly?
Being ushered in by none other than Starbucks with the PSL Pumpkin Spice Latte. Today is the official release of it.
Drop day.
And they made a big old deal about it. It made headlines. It's the earliest they've ever released it, and it's coming in full swing as they roll out, their materials in the stores. Yeah. The Instagram's going off.
It's funny because it ushers in fall, which then officially, for a lot of culture, ushers in Halloween. It's so interesting that, to me, that when we talk about brand and we talk about the power of brand, that a brand can... Most brands, they kind of follow seasons, right? Every brand has a sales swing with a particular season, or maybe they make holiday, gift baskets around the Christmas times, right? Their product, they might tailor, if it's a retail store, they might tailor some of their product for the seasons. And that's kind of following the season. They're not gauging the season. They're not leading the season. They're not ushering in officially the season. And there's very few brands that have been able to capture that. Yeah. But for whatever reason, Starbucks has been able to do it with a single drink that, the pumpkin spice latte, which for the most part just tastes like a lot of nutmeg. I'm a big fan. I'm not knocking it in any way, but it's not like a signature, a flavor you go to any other coffee shop that has a pumpkin spice latte and they all pretty much taste the same. Yeah. In fact, they're probably for the most part buying the same type of sourced syrups or whatever it is, right? But man, Starbucks just they've always dominated this area. And how long have they been doing it? Do we know how long?
I looked it up, and it looks like they first rolled it out in 2003. And they have, so Starbucks has this little lab that they have where they test out new drinks before they roll them out and see which ones kind of win. And this one really took off when they were testing it. And it was actually when they rolled it out, according to their history, it was their third kind of iconic drink that they rolled out, because they had the peppermint mocha, I think, and then they had one other one that was more like Christmas time,
like eggnog.
Drink.
Their eggnog.
The eggnog
latte.
one.
For me, that emotionally draws me into it's Christmas time.
And so they had those two, and then they rolled out pumpkin spice latte. Yeah. And then that thing just blew up. And actually, when the first names that I wrote it down. One of the first names that they were working with, that they were supposed to call it, was Fall Harvest Latte. Which to me, that's a completely... that sounds like granola or something.
Fall harvest.
It's a totally different vibe versus pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah.
And I guess the way they're kind of do it, the guy...
The autumnal latte.
That's Scott's word. And they actually use real pumpkin...
puree
in it. And they've done that ever since the beginning, I think ever since 2015. And then it just continues to grow and get some popularity. And another fun fact is, I guess the whole PSL thing, that PSL actually was from the baristas. So because it'd get so popular, they just write PSL on the cups. And then
the brand Starbucks leaned into that. Yeah, because that was people's. It was almost like a sub-brand touch point. People would come back with and they'd see the PSL, so then they would start doing these mass campaigns where they're offering all these other things that are under the PSL line. Yeah, right, and
domination.
And even that flavor, it's we don't refer to it as, oh, that tastes like pumpkin spice. We say it tastes like pumpkin spice latte, which the latte is just the warm milk. It's not necessarily a dominating flavor added to the warm baking spices that make up like nutmeg, that make up the pumpkin spice latte. Yeah. But it's so interesting to me that, the first day of fall is technically on the calendar, I think September 1st, I believe.
No, September 22nd.
September 22nd. Okay, so we're a month out. We're a month out before technically fall is here.
The equinox.
But a single national brand, international, but a single brand has dictated that fall is now today.
It's begun.
And that to me just speaks into the ambiguous magnetic pull and draw comes from great brands that can have the power to do that. There was another brand that comes to mind that ushered in a holiday and kind of owned that holiday and kind of dictated when we would kind of as a culture. And that was McDonald's, who came out with the Shamrock Shake.
Oh, yeah.
Initially, it came out in 1967. And it wasn't, it grew. And then as a corporation, it was 1970 that they launched it. They just sell it in 2020. They just celebrated the Shamrock's 50th anniversary. Jeez. McDonald's Corp did. Wow. This thing's been around for over 50 years now. That product that brand developed, it has a certain shelf life. Yeah. And they know that they're going to get as much as they can, because after, for the most part, after that season or holiday has passed, that product's popularity, or it'll either get pulled or its sales will slump and may fade away, may end up still being a year-round offering, but it's not getting the prominence that the brand wants to and capitalize on. During that.
I think it's part of the brilliance of it is that when you do this, whether it's St. Patrick's Day or like PSL with autumn, you're creating scarcity. And you're bringing something back for limited time. So people go and just, I have to get it. It's my thing, right? I do this every year. Right. I have to go get one.
Every year. It's tradition.
Go line up.
It's tradition.
Yeah, there's tradition and ritual in it of going, okay, no, this is what I do. And I look forward to it. So then there's a tie-in with nostalgia, or like short-term nostalgia, where there's a longing for it. So when Starbucks then rolls out and goes, all right, we're launching it. It's coming out. Then there's this full desire for it of like, okay, either tradition and ritual, or I've been longing for it, or it's this whole sensation of flavors and senses that actually really embody that season. And that's what's interesting about it when you look at beverages or like food product, is that you can encapsulate like a season in flavors. Like you don't eat a pumpkin pie in the summer. Right. And you don't eat candy canes in the summer, but there are certain flavors that remind us of certain seasons. And so just like pumpkin spice is like, okay, that sounds great in the fall. Right. So then it's completely associated with that. And then, the brand's able to lean into that and capitalize on it.
Like I think of the dominance of cinnamon. Well, you can go, the smell of cinnamon, I think Christmas, but when I taste cinnamon, like something like Red Hots or Cinnamon Bears, Valentine's Day.
Right.
The heat, the passion of love, and the firiness of the spiciness of Valentine's Day, right?
I would not think of.
So we have we have sensory associations, and I think we do. There, it's interesting because there's brands that clearly have sales spikes, right, during the holidays. For instance, when I think of like Easter, Brock's, I think like that's the time for Brock's as a brand to shine, because all of their purge of jelly beans, that's when the spike of jelly beans goes up. And then, like things like Peeps. And Peeps, I know there's a lot of haters out there. But I will tell you one thing. If you have not lived until you've had a s'more done with a roasted peep, because the sugar on the outside of the peep caramelizes like a creme brulee and gets hard and adds a whole nother layer
of peep to
another layer of texture to your s'mores. But I get off topic. I digress.
And I think that the candy market, or like that industry, it's what PSL does, but they do it all year long, where they take, let's say, chocolate, and they go, okay, how many different times can we sell chocolate? How many reasons can we make someone to buy chocolate? Yeah. And they go, okay, holidays, that's a given. Now let's change the form. Let's make it in the shape of a heart. Let's make it in the shape of a Christmas tree or in the Easter bunny. And they do that, right? Yep. So they're changing the reason of the purchase.
To go with the season.
Just like Starbucks does, where they go, okay, we have these ingredients. How do we move these ingredients? They put milk in so many other drinks. Now we're going to move a lot of milk because it's going to be in the latte for Pumpkin Spice Latte. So they're moving the same thing. But then with candy, it's really like they're doing that in so many levels of going, how do we move more chocolate? Yeah. And they change the shape of it, change the combination, maybe add peanut butter or add.
But not even that. It's one of these things where like you take like Reese's, you wrap Reese's, like they just have different molds. Some of the molds are a lot larger and are like shaped like a bunny. So you got for some bigger Easter, Reese's Easter bunnies, or you've got hearts or trees or
just a bigger
eggs.
cup.
I've seen egg shaped around.
I actually like those a lot.
And then year round, right? They back off and they've just got the cups. They've got their normal cups, but it's the same ingredients. But just by changing the mold, they're really able to capitalize on that season. Yeah. But it's funny because there's some. I think for me, the biggest as far as controlling, there's brands that singularly control it. We mentioned Starbucks for one, or McDonald's with the shamrock shape, where they kind of lead the industry and help usher in the season with something so iconic. But then you have brands that embrace the season, but they also usher in the season. For us, I always know when Christmas is technically here, because if I walk into Lowe's and they've got all their Christmas stuff up, it could be August, it could be next week, it could be end of August, and if I see the Christmas decor, Christmas tree stands and stuff already showing up at Lowe's, I know it is Christmas. The Christmas season is upon us. So retail, right? They could decide we're going to do it in July, and I guarantee you that you're going to find Christmas music in retail stores, everything else, because the retail stores are almost dictating the holiday seasons.
Yeah. Well, I think the most aggressive, like in the most recent years that we saw of these brands aggressively trying to be the first ones to trigger the reason. It's all just reasoning. They're all just trying to create these scenarios and reasons
the reason for the season.
The reason for the season is shopping and spending money and consuming. And so I think Black Friday, which evolved into Cyber Month, right? Now it's like Black Month and just
and
like
it's Giving Tuesday.
It's like,
I love how we as a nation like keep tacking on new days, so it's like a 2-week long celebration of at the end of Thanksgiving and into Christmas.
Give a little. and I think with that I remember when Black Friday was Black Friday, right? Where right after Thanksgiving we'd eat and then go get in line somewhere
because it would be midnight at some
store.
That.
That was amazing. And then now it's expanded, and you'd have these stores going. Now it's they'd be starting a day ahead of the other one.
Now it's like a week, isn't it? Like
no,
I
now
feel
it's
like
a month.
Black
now
Friday falls like the Friday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
rather
now,
than the
now
day
it's a whole
after
month,
Thanksgiving.
Then,
it's always like
then it's
leading up
merged
to it.
with Cyber Monday, and now it's just become like, and even Amazon's done this with Prime Day, and then Temu, they started doing their own thing. So you have all these brands like fighting for trying to get ahead and create the reason, because that's what it's all about, is that just like fashion does, where you change the trend, you change the season, and it makes the shopper go, oh, it's my trigger to buy something. Just like if they put out Christmas stuff, it's going, okay, I must be starting to think about that, which is interesting when you think of shopping, because there's demand, and there's also like, what am I supposed to be shopping for right now? And again, going back to Starbucks, I think that's what's so interesting about it, is that they can roll this out and it changes what someone's kind of desiring, going, oh, that does actually sound good, or that that makes me start thinking about this. Maybe I'll get it next week. Maybe I'll get it on the day it comes out.
I mean, and I also think of like old brands that capitalize on seasons in a way that's unique, and that they've kind of helped usher in the season or lead the season. And even like we talked about the Christmas holidays, the year-end holidays. And I think of like Hallmark is an iconic brand. It's been around for decades and decades. And maybe the greeting card season is at its prime. I know a lot of families used to get like Christmas cards, and so with the nothing. It's like some image, and on the inside is like stamped, in foil, season's greetings from the Mortons or whatever it is, right? And so obviously there's a sales spike. But Hallmark started getting into doing collector holiday ornaments.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got their whole line. And you walk into like a Rite Aid or CVS or something like that, and that's when you're going to see all these end caps all of a sudden. So if I walk in to go pick up a pharmacy, something at CVS right now, if all of a sudden I see on an end cap the Hallmark ornaments, it's kind of signaling to me as a consumer it's Christmas time. Yep. Now, for a Christmas fanatic, that's cool, because to me, I can justify going around the house with the Christmas music playing in September, and justify, well, hey, it's Christmas season because the Hallmark ornaments are out and Lowe's is packing packing Christmas lights.
It's not your fault, but it kind of does show the power of it, the power of the perception of a drink like PSL representing an entire season, not even just a holiday. It is a season, and it's become that iconic that it encompasses that. But then also how other brands can kind of tie in with seasons to help represent that. And this makes me think of when Target has like 50 or more private labels, or like what you call like sub brands, when they've created a certain brand that still comes from Target, but it's named something different. Like during Halloween, they have their, what's it called? It's like the Trick or Treat shop or something like that. And then they have the sugar one or something for Christmas time. I'm butchering all the names right now. But then for each holidays, they have these different brands. And they've done it with Magnolia. They have their Hearth and Hand or whatever. And each of these brands, they've really honed in on a certain reason for purchasing, whether that's, female athletic attire or Halloween, decorations or Christmas. And then they rotate them in and out. And when you look on the back of them, it's all, coming from Target. Yeah. So they're doing the same thing that these, chocolate companies are doing. We're going, hey, we have these, factories and we're sourcing from these different things. Now, how do we drive down our logistical costs of that by now selling the same thing in just all these different
putting
shapes
it from a
and
different
forms?
lens. And that's leading into the holidays.
And it's kind of like we talk about framing, right? And going, okay, how do you frame this so that it is more valuable? And then when someone does see it and they go, oh, wow, that's much more valuable to me because it's representing that reason for me to purchase. Just like the Pumpkin Spice Latte, they could have that all the time, all year long. But it's not as valuable until it's released and then during
removed.
The fall. Yeah,
yes.
And taken away. Then when you take it away, it's even more
that's
valuable.
and another brand that as you were talking that popped into mind that leans into the holiday in a rather unique business model, but again is a touch point signal to the audience that season is upon us, and that's the spirit of Halloween, where their business model relies on there aren't any bricks and mortar. They're almost like a traveling salesman that comes in, finds any large waiting for lease real estate that they can take over for a month, 2 months, set up shop. And after Halloween, they pack it up and they go away. And I don't know, the people behind it, what else they do with the rest of the year. But it's not like they open up and rely on a year-round costume shop.
But like Spirit of Halloween, like they are one of the most interesting brands, I feel like, because they do, I guess, I was reading one thing on it, and they, of course, don't own any of those facilities.
Yeah, there's no bricks and mortar.
Pay rent, and then they leave. And then I think they just have warehouses where they put everything. I think they do some online sales, but again, no one's buying during... Maybe for random parties.
Do they do online sales?
Yeah, but they have no physical, locations. It's like it's so incredible the way they do it, and I feel like someone should even do that with like Christmas stuff, like having like the Christmas version of that, where it's like go and take over these. I'm
trying to think if there are. So I'm sure there's probably some smaller brands. As you mention it, I'm trying to think because it seems like there is a brand, maybe it's not around anymore, but that used to be that way. They would, come in and set up shop, but, and the holiday season, we're talking about seasons, clearly, the most popular season for retail small businesses or brands is Christmas. It's the time of giving. It's the time of presents that's, and I think that obviously every brand is like, okay, how do we celebrate the holidays, whether it's, gift bags or gift baskets or, some other thing. But I think, one good takeaway just for people that are small business and doing things is the idea of possibly maybe it's possible for you to have a variance of one of your better selling products that is a seasonal thing. It only comes out around that holiday, and whatever holiday that is. It could be 4th of July. It could be, it could be Labor Day. I don't know. It's going to be very hard to achieve that kind of Starbucks PSL status.
Multi-billion-dollar status.
Right. But the idea is for the audience that you do serve, right?
Yeah.
Instead of following the season, make use of the season and encapsulate. Let the power of your brand tap into the power of the holiday season. But if there's a way that you can kind of lean into a holiday beyond what everyone else is doing, right?
Yeah.
Which is just, we're going to do some window treatments for the holidays.
Yeah.
And we're going to have Christmas sales.
Yeah.
And we're going to have red bows all over the store. You're decorating. Your brand isn't leaning into the power of your brand to and within the scope of your products or services.
And I think having that mindset of kind of like the chocolate factory of going, okay, this is what we're selling. This is our bread and butter. This is how we make money. Now, how can we package that up? It's like a product. You're productizing it. You're making it special for not only perhaps that season, but also you can do it to what someone's needs could be too, of looking at your customer and going, okay, well, how could I repackage this so that it fits a different specific need.
Yeah.
And that's what, again, you look at chocolate candy companies and chocolate where
Yeah.
they look at going, okay, someone might want to buy this for an anniversary. They might want to buy this
Right.
for a birthday, you know, or you look at down the card section, all those different cards for different reasons of purchasing. And they're not all just blank cards and they're calling it a day, but they're addressing certain needs, whether it's seasonal or like situational, but they're able to then lean into that. And like Scott was saying, it's like, don't just follow, you know, redecorating or kind of doing just seasonal motions, but looking at it as an opportunity to pivot it and package it the way that it should to kind of fit the value.
Like one possible path a business could take would be, instead of just promoting the holiday with their normal line of products, actually tailoring their product line a little bit differently with the flows of seasons. You know, that's huge with the public, and again, ushers in a season. General Mills, the cereal company, again, Halloween.
Oh yeah,
they roll out with the classic, iconic Count Chocula and Blueberry and Frankenberry, and they used to have a Fruit Brute, which was like a wolf, a werewolf guy back when they first launched it back in the 70s, I think. But again, we're a cereal company, and we're not talking about the regular. Again, like there's like, I just saw recently there's a like a Pumpkin Spice Latte Fruity Pebbles, like a limited edition that, you know, Post is launching. It's like, okay, that's you get a pumpkin spice latte flavored frosted flakes.
Cheerios,
That's different. I'm talking about where they literally devise packaging and products specific to this one season. But you sit back and you watch things like this develop over years and decades and go, gosh, brand is so powerful.
Yeah.
And if anything, if there's ways you can tap into the power of your brand in and around the seasons, that can, it could help grow your brand and strengthen it.
Yeah. I'll put the link.
If done smartly.
I'll put the link in the show notes of the Starbucks, their history on it, because they have this nice timeline. But it's like, it's been over 20 years of them building this thing.
Yeah.
Where now it's at this point where it is just,
they're making national headlines because they dropped it today,
20 years
and
ago.
it's
like,
making news.
It's massive because of that. But I think it does, for the small business owner, it does show the power of, you know, brand isn't just your business. It's like how you do things, how you package your services or offerings, how you go about offering them, how you do those things. And there's a lot of opportunity out there where you can take something, and even as simple as, you know, cinnamon, nutmeg, and pumpkin puree and make it into something that's, you know, really powerful. And just like Scott with the cereal, it's like they release that during a limited time, and then they just pull it, right? And it's not costing them an arm and leg to do that. It's probably a little extra effort, but it's still, it makes it so much more special where someone takes note of it, and it makes the purchase more special where the kids probably go nuts about it and probably beg their parents for it, and the parents finally give in and buy it. And it's just like, you got to see these moments of, you're creating little magical moments and making something feel more special than it is by being more kind of deliberate in how you're going about it. You're not just going, okay, this is a year-long thing, but just being more deliberate about your approach to it and how you package it and how you present it.
It's tapping into the emotional power that brand has. So when you're tapping into nostalgia, when you're creating tradition between your brand and its audience, you are strengthening your brand because you are creating emotional triggers with your audience and your fan base and your customers. And that's where you can tap into the power.
That's the home run.
Yep, for sure.
So thank you for tuning in on this episode of Brandy. And again, go get yourself a PSL. You deserve it.
I want to go out and get some Count Chocula cereal.
Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.